This is Off the Break Podcast, presented by Silver Screen Insider.
And we're back at Off the Break Podcast. It's our 100th podcast episode.
We made it.
We made it. With me, I'm Cody, and with me is Kyle and
Hello.
mystery guest. We will get to later.
Oh, we're not going to do it right away.
Not right away. No,
Okay,
we're going
okay.
to revel a little in our 100th podcast.
All right.
This is the post-Eric era.
It's a sad era right now,
It
but
is sad. In these
it'll continue on.
next
well.
5 minutes, we will remember him fondly.
He's not dead, by the way, but
He's just dead to us and gone.
yeah, screw that guy.
Yeah. Now that he's out of here, we can really talk about him.
Oh, yeah.
No, 100 episodes. We got here quicker than we thought because we were doing 2 a week to start with, which was a little much.
Yeah, I was scrolling through all the past episodes that we did, and it took us quite a while to realize that the 2 episodes a week format isn't the best for us.
Right.
I think it was like around this time last year when we finally were like, let's just nix it. Let's just do it once a week.
The once a week on the Friday podcast.
Yeah.
Nope. Just heading into your weekend. All you need to know
Mm-hmm.
heading into the new week. Because
Pretty
technically
much.
Friday is the beginning of our play weeks. So
When it comes to
So
theaters running
the
movies
end of
and the sort.
the end of a normal person's week and the beginning of the movie week.
Mm-hmm.
So Fridays are a good day.
Yeah, that was the right call.
Yeah.
Score for us.
That's worked out. We've figured that out. We've also got used to listening to ourselves talk.
Yeah, because I'm always one that hates like listening to my own voice, but now it's less
horrible.
painful than usual.
Oh, listening to your own voice being recorded is just awful. You're like,
Yeah.
really? That's how I sound?
Mm-hmm.
And we had some kinks, just shyness, then talking over each other, and then all that stuff.
Yeah.
We're still working some of that out, but I think it's going good.
I think we're a great podcast.
100 episodes in, I think we're a great podcast too.
Yeah,
So.
and we just have a lot of storylines that just kept progressing as our podcast grew.
Right.
Like movie pass debacles, subscriptions that are
And-
similar to movie
yeah.
pass as well have always been a key thing. We've always been like hating on Twitter. I
Yeah.
noticed that we hate like initial Twitter reactions, or we hate Twitter
Yeah.
overblowing controversies, quote unquote. Like
Right.
there's just a lot of those that I was diving through in our past
Yep.
episodes.
A lot of Netflix bashing.
Yes, a lot of Disney bashing sometimes.
Disney bashing. It's easy to bash the big guy on the playground.
Mhm.
So make fun of him, not like his policies, and then love his content. It's just love-hate relationship with Disney.
Yeah.
Quit making such good movies.
But moving forward with the
yeah.
podcast, we're hoping to really start changing some things with it, like adding video as well.
We want to add video.
Yes.
We want to be seen and
Mhm.
heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to add a new member to the team
Mm-hmm.
to replace the wayward Eric, who's lost out there in the wilderness.
Is that when we're going to introduce them?
Yeah, we're going to introduce him here soon. Mystery guest,
I'm so excited.
new team member, noob.
I wonder who it will be.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Quiet mystery guest. We're not to you yet. And yeah, just 100 episodes. I can't believe we're
Yeah.
here already.
Yeah. Like I said, I was scrolling back to
Right.
the beginning, saw episode 1, and I was like, wow, that feels long ago.
Long ago.
And somehow it just, time flew by.
No, I hope that, in the next 100 episodes, we tackle more in-depth industry stuff, but also talk more about what theaters can do to enhance their experiences, like more real world solutions
Yeah.
and stuff. I think we could be a good source for that. And I definitely want to see us focus on that a little bit more. Always about the movies though.
Yeah.
Always about content. And I haven't been very good about it, but I want to see more movies and maybe even do reviews this year. That's my goal. But it's 2020 and I have yet to see a movie in the theater.
I think you would like Sonic at least.
I really want to take the little boys to Sonic.
Yeah.
I really don't care about Call of the Wild. I think Onward will probably be my first.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't make it to Sonic, I just have had a lot of things going on in my spare time. A lot of house building
Which
stuff.
I know a lot about.
Yeah. It's just so busy that movies have kind of taken a back seat, but hopefully that stuff is wrapping up soon and
Yeah.
we'll be able to get back at the movie going.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Anything else you want to see that you want to work on in the next 100 episodes?
Focus
on?
Kind of what you said. I want to be able to tackle more industry-related stuff when it comes to the process that theaters have to go through, because that's what our site is all about, and that's also what we are wanting to do with the podcast initially, and what we want to do moving forward.
We got really into fandom.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay, because
that grew with the podcast too.
Right.
After a while, we were like, we don't need it to be about fandom, because we've always wanted to strive for really worrying about the industry more. So
yeah,
which I think is a better direction. It makes us more unique.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well,
Pat ourselves on the back.
Yep. Okay, not a lot of back patting. And then now, since Eric has left us, we have to get another leg on our tripod.
Well, yeah.
And we talked about bringing in another member in the office, Ken. And he is going to join us today for our discussion.
So here is Ken.
So here is Ken, everybody.
Thank you for the big intro. Hello, all of our millions and millions of podcast listeners.
Yeah.
Millions.
Millions.
Well, I would like
Which
to
is
share
something else we'll work on.
Yeah.
I'd like to share my favorite part of your first 100 episodes, and that's where Cody decided to tell on the podcast that Santa Claus wasn't real, and that gave away all of her children's gifts for Christmas. So that was my favorite part of the first 100 episodes.
I'm sure that went over swimmingly.
We did listen to it in the car, and luckily the kids were not paying attention at that time, because I forgot that I talked about what we got them. It was Legos, by the way.
I think we also made fun of you for that too. Didn't we say like, you better hope the kids don't listen?
Oh,
You're like, don't worry, they
don't
never
worry.
do.
And they were at that point. Oh, that was bad. That was in the
amazing.
car. Yeah, so you're an avid listener, and
Very avid. I come from the film buying world as well, so I have some insight into that, but I'm also a huge movie fan and bring in all of my expertise and knowledge about great action movies of the late 80s and early 90s.
The so bad it's so good type?
So good, it's so good.
Ah, gotcha.
yeah.
my mistake. That was poor wording.
That I'm here for hot takes and cool looks.
Yeah.
And that's what we
Which
need.
You'll see in the video when we add it in a few months. So yeah, we're excited to have Ken. It'll be definitely a different feel than Eric was, and we talked about that a little last podcast.
You'll never be Eric.
You'll never be Eric. That's okay. We decided you're taller, so
We
That's right.
decided. It's fact, but we decided.
you're taller.
Fake news.
Taller and blonder. That's where we're going with. Well, so we didn't have a lot to discuss. This was a short week with the holiday weekend. Sonic did awesome. We're super excited about that. I thought it was interesting how they're saying it's the most successful video game adaptation.
I think in terms of opening weekend numbers.
Yeah.
But I don't know how far it'll go beyond that.
I was trying to think of another successful video game movie. Detective Pikachu was great. It did, but it only did a $50 million opening. This was closer to 70. I think it definitely benefited from having the long holiday weekend.
Yeah,
so
that was a part of it.
That was a big part of, I think, its additional success, because the 3-day was actually higher because Sunday, with the Monday holiday, had a big boost in numbers. So that was just really good timing, and everybody was really ready for a kids film, I think,
Should be able to do well next weekend too.
Yeah,
or this weekend.
They're saying it's going to do better than Call of the Wild. So
I could see that.
Still stay number 1 2 weeks in a row, which is great for Paramount. They needed that.
Yeah, good thing they changed that design.
Yeah.
Because it probably would not have been those numbers.
No, and
Maybe
that could be the biggest deciding factor, that they had that slow burn of promotion, that we're changing this, we're putting all this money into this, and the redesign cost has more than paid for itself, because Paramount does these kids movies that don't pay off or have a really slow build, and this was one that paid for itself that first weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that was good. And yeah, because I don't know about Call of the Wild. I'm a little hesitant. I just don't like the digital dog.
It's awful.
Yeah, I'm like,
It's so weird.
Why did it go there? But And I feel like Call of the Wild used to be a book that kids read in school. I don't know if they still do. So I feel like it really works for older audiences. It's an older audience film, not a young kids film.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that families will see this as one they could show their kids to, and it'll be fine, but it still won't do that well because Sonic is also that. It's also family friendly, and it's doing better, getting better buzz.
And I think it's more of like what modern art audiences think are family films versus I feel like Call of the Wild is definitely a throwback. Like, this used to be family product, but this is really hitting older generations.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those Fox holdover titles that they're not sure what to deal with, not sure how to promote. You can't put it out during NBA games or spring training baseball.
Yeah.
And you can't promote it over other family films that are more fun and exciting and have a real appeal to mass audiences.
Because Disney has Onward in 2 weeks, which is Pixar and much more modern audience friendly, and I think where they're really more pushing the marketing towards right now. Like, I see way more Onward things on social media than I do Call of the Wild.
And then Brahms the Boy 2, that's not going to do anything. That's
other than creep me out by watching the trailers. My skin is still crawling. Anything with demonic children or dolls or Katie Holmes. Ooh.
Or Katie Holmes.
Oh, Katie Holmes.
That girl's going to be a star once they teach her to talk out of the front of her mouth.
I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Well, I have wondered this. Like, is she a good actress? Like, do people think of Katie Holmes and think she's a good actress?
Like, oh, I want to see it because she's in it. She's so good.
Like, what she can do no wrong. Like, is there one of those?
Or do they still look at her and be like, she was in Dawson's Creek?
Or like Ken, she talks out the side of her mouth.
It doesn't matter where the voice comes out of. When she stops talking, it's like, oh, she's so cute. She's just so cute. We got to put her on the poster because she can't talk on the poster.
True.
Yeah.
You don't see that happening there.
I wonder. When I think of Katie Holmes, I think Dawson's Creek. I think her weird marriage to Tom Cruise. But I do not think prolific actress is not something that comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
The secret Jamie Foxx relationship.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think about.
That one's good, too.
And then
that one is pretty awesome.
Then I play Gold Digger with Kanye West in the background while I'm thinking about it.
Because all those things connect together perfectly.
Yeah. So not a lot this weekend, but moving forward, we thought we would take our 100th episode and kind of dive into how we see movie going in the year of 2020. 5 things we're kind of excited for and 5 things we worry about. So I thought we'd get started with that. Number 1, let's go over the positive stuff. So this SSI has compiled 5 reasons why we think 2020 will be great for theaters. Reason number 1, I think, is luxury experiences and upcharges. You know, we're seeing a proliferation of luxury reclining seating, dine-in experiences, beer and wine and alcohol, and reserve seating. All of those things that kind of up the experience at the theater, and I think that's just all helping theaters this year. I mean, it's driving people back into them. It's giving whatever plays in the theater a event-like experience, a night out-like experience. And also, on a lot of these things, theaters can upcharge for them. So you can upcharge for luxury seats, you can upcharge for reserved seating, online ticketing, and those upcharges go to the theater. They do not go to the studio.
Yeah.
And so that's just a little bit more money in the theater's pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's we've mentioned this quite a bit last year in some of the episodes, that people like making an event out of going out, but at the same time still want to be at the feeling like they're at the comfort of their own home.
Yep.
So definitely when it comes to theaters going the extra miles to give that luxury experience, that it feels like you're at your home, but it still is an event at the same time. So it does make a lot of sense to do that.
And I think we saw at the end of 2019 more theaters converting, and I think that we're going to see more of that investment this year and more return on that investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strong economy helps, and you're competing only specifically now, not with the theater across town, but with Netflix and chill. With someone's couch and being at home, and you've got to create this outward experience that's better than anything they can create at home, which we're seeing in a lot of our new clients and new theaters that are opening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the theaters are definitely stepping up, and I think this year you'll see more of that, and I think theaters will see a return on that investment. I mean, you have to invest in your theater, and these are, I think, good investments to make. They're expensive, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say luxury reclining seats aren't a huge investment, but you don't lose anything. You don't lose traffic. You don't lose your per capita numbers. People spend more at the concession stands when you put the seats in for a number of reasons, but mostly you've increased the experience, and people want to go for that. And when they do, they're just a little bit more liberal with the pocket money, and that's good. And that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Pocket money. How old are you? A little walking around money.
Sorry. I am old. Number 2 on this list was we're seeing less major huge tent poles and more mid-range product. So as we look at the spring and the summer into the fall, we don't have an Avengers this year, and we don't have these big like end of the era tent poles, but I kind of think that's a good thing. I don't know if the theaters extremely benefit from having one huge movie that everybody waits and goes and sees, rather than having consistently, product through multiple weeks. I mean, if you're dead the 3 weeks leading up to Avengers, and then you're awesome and you're sold out, but then you're dead again, I don't know if that's easier for theaters to be able to budget and bankroll and do all that. So I think this year we're seeing a lot more mid-range stuff. We're seeing not poor performing, but we're just seeing that not huge stellar event pool, which I think is also great too, because you don't have the event pool policies that go into it. You don't have to hold so many multiple weeks or pay such high terms. That this stuff is going to be a little bit better for theaters all around.
Yeah, it's not a matter that there aren't any blockbuster type movies. It's just that there's more to choose from. Like there isn't just the one that you have to stay with for a couple of weeks or a month or two. It's just rather you get more of the blockbusters to choose from, so that way there's at least
and they're spread
out.
It's
spread out. There's an equal amount of people going to each one of them. Hopefully, we'll see how that goes down the road. But as for right now, it just looks like it could shape out that way this year.
I don't feel like there's one company that's set up at this point to dominate everything else. Like Disney's always going to be probably the number one, just because of the volume of the market share that they have at this point. But I don't see them being so dominant like they were last year with having an Avengers and a Star Wars and a Frozen and all these things.
Yeah.
No, there's a real chance this year that Paramount could be twice the market share they were last year with Quiet Place and Top Gun coming out after Sonic.
After Sonic having overperformed.
10 to 12 weeks they could dominate over the year, which is a big deal for them.
That is a big deal. And it's good for everybody because, as more you play more companies, terms get a little bit better. It'll get a little bit more competitive. You maybe take home a little bit more out of the box, which is always good for theaters.
Yeah, definitely.
This year as well, because we don't have these huge temples, we're seeing a lot more family product. I mean, there are so many more animated kids movies this year than I've noticed in previous years. And for theaters, especially little guys, that family movies are bread and butter for them. That people bring kids, they buy concessions. It's just those movies are the best.
Yeah, and there's like 2 musicals this year without Hugh Jackman or Nicole Kidman. That's a big deal.
Oh.
Very rarely do we have musicals around
that
are set in place where they can actually do some business.
Yeah. No, and I mean, we've got a couple Disney films. We've got Onward in the spring, Mulan.
Sonic just happened and it's
Sonic
booming.
just happened. And Disney has Soul later in the summer, and then Universal has Trolls, which will be great, and Minions: Rise of Gru. Paramount, I think, did they have something else? I think they had
SpongeBob,
Sonic and SpongeBob, and then Warner's has.
It's gonna have Scooby-Doo. Yeah. They had another anime movie I thought too. I can't think of it now.
Right, but
they're spaced out really well to where
they are.
Once this anime movie starts dying down, you get a new one. Once this one dies down, you get a new one.
And just I feel like a summer with a lot of kids stuff is just an overall better summer for theaters. And they're not always huge domestically in the box office, big events, but they just usually have legs. The terms are usually a little bit better, and because they have legs and they consistently perform, it's just so good for matinees, for times to bring the kids in, and your concession stand prices and products just sell so much better.
Yeah, this definitely could be a better year for anime movies than it was last year, when there was like maybe one or two big Disney anime movies, and then the rest just fell off the wayside.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's exciting for me as I'm booking those, to keep that in mind. And
as a parent too.
Oh yeah. I'm so looking forward to Trolls.
And my kids, right?
I don't know how many times I've watched Trolls. So I'm looking forward to that one, The Rise of Gru. I always said the first Minion movie should have been about the Minions and when Gru was a child, and so I'm glad I'm getting that movie now.
Well, there you go.
Yes, mischievous children. That won't give your kids any ideas.
I think another thing this year has going for movies, at least I hope, is that, we always say movies offer an escape. And this year I don't know about the listeners, but I'm already tired of hearing about election stuff. And all the divisiveness in our country and all the political stuff. I just feel like maybe all of that will turn people into entertainment, just turn them away from the TV news and get them back in the theaters for just that escapism. Because I don't know, it's already February and I feel like I need it.
Brought to you by Universal Pictures, The Hunt, March 13th.
Yeah. Not all films are going to be that escapism, but we just talked about all those family titles and a few of the big tentpoles, nostalgic feels, Top Gun and Wonder Woman and
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby's a card-carrying libertarian. You didn't know that? Sandwiches for everyone.
Yeah.
Take that as you will, people.
No. So hopefully, we'll see a bump in movie going just for that escapism aspect, which you can make the argument that can happen every year because there's always something going on. But this year,
just because it's going to be so stretched out more
in a run
than
up to an election,
ones.
it's just going to be so much worse. So.
Yeah.
And then the final thing on our 5 reasons why we're excited about 2020 in theaters is we've noticed just from calls into our office that there are more new theaters popping up every day, more interest in theaters, and just more investment in the theatrical model. People still really like theaters. They kind of want to be connected to that entertainment industry part. So we get quite a few phone calls about new or converting theaters. And it seems like even though some theaters may close down, there seems to be enough people waiting in the wings to prop it back up and put some money investment into it and make sure it still goes. So until we start seeing a decline in that, I'm very confident that we're seeing, some good things coming from the investment side.
It also seemed like there's become a younger generation that's also trying to go into the business as well, like take over maybe an old theater that got shut down for a while, or taking over the mantle for someone else who passed it on to them, but at least they seem like they have interest in trying to revive it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. I think there's definitely a transition going between older operators and younger ones. And so you'll always see some of that transition. But I think what's kind of exciting now is that because of technology and social media, I think the newer operators are becoming a little bit more savvy on trying to pull people in. And so there is some opportunity for growth there if you can pick up a theater and then work on building its audience.
Yeah, they're also the ones that are probably investing in the luxury seating and the fine dining.
Yeah, kind of understand
they're seeing
the
those trends. Yeah,
and all of these theaters that have shut down or exist in these smaller towns are on Main Street. Nobody built a theater off Main Street in any one of these towns. So you drive past it and it's dilapidated, or it sits there and people in the city see it every day. So the community has a real reason to turn things around and really put a a jewel in the middle of their city, something that they had been seeing for 50 years and now is just an old marquee.
We are definitely seeing so much more community involvement. Communities rallying to save theaters. I think when you think about little towns or just any size, that there are very few cultural things that that can bring a community together and be an event space, and theaters are still top of that list.
Yeah, 70% of the single screens that we've had inquire about what it takes to run a movie theater have been a nonprofit situation where the city is rallying around the building and the space and the history to revitalize it, to make it another strong part of the community.
Right. Yeah, I think this is just an evolution in the industry is, not only behaviors around movie going, but like who owns the theater, what's the purpose of the theater, what's the purpose of going, that all I think there's a lot of support for that, to see that continue on. I think people are pretty heartbroken when they see the movie theater go. There's just nowhere else to congregate except a bar or the church, and you want something besides those two options usually.
Yeah, definitely.
And a family gathering place. We live in the Great White North, so we need a place to go that's inside.
That's inside in the winter.
A little warm.
And like anywhere, it's in the South, you need some place to go that's air conditioned to get away from the heat.
Where it's hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're optimistic about this year. We think there's some good things coming. We're not too worried about the product slate. I think there's some good stuff coming down the pipeline, and some good investments being made in our industry this year. But on
dun.
on the other side of that, there are some areas that we could see could change in our industry, that we'd like to see change, that we think could be a benefit to everybody involved if there was some shakeup. One of them is which has been talked about a lot, but the overabundance of sequels, remakes, and spinoffs. Everybody wants original content, and I think when we see more original things, they tend to do a little bit better. But Kyle and I counted just major releases this year, and there's something like 20 sequels.
And that's not including like sequel remakes or sequel spin-offs,
reboots and spin-offs, and
because we have specific data that makes sure to differentiate between all those.
And
I heard them talking like, is this it? I think so.
Well, but I don't know.
Specific data. Computers can.
But I mean, we looked at it, and I get, having that recognition for the built-in marketing. I get not straying too much outside, but I think sequelitis is a really big deal. And I think just because a character busts out and does really great in one film doesn't mean that you should make a whole spin-off for just that character, as I think we kind of saw with the Harley Quinn movie. It's doing okay, but it's not performing the way that Warner's wished or invested in, and it didn't really work for some of the theaters that we booked for. So that seeing more and more of those is a little troublesome, because I don't feel like it's diminishing returns with them.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at last year. The Secret Life of Pets 2 didn't do well. Men in Black, the remake was awful. Terminator Dark Fate, I mean, it was fine, but it didn't make that money. People didn't care anymore.
I feel like we're scraping the barrel here on some of these remakes and reboots and all of that. And there's definitely enough of those. Even all that animated children's stuff we talked about. Rise of Gru is a sequel to the Minions movie. Trolls is a sequel to the first one. So there's still a lot of that happening. And I just think that theaters have to lower expectations on the returns on these, because just because the first Trolls was a great movie doesn't mean this one's going to work, although I think it will, because I think it looks fantastic. But you almost got to plan for that diminishing return.
I mean, you could plan out this year better, just because everything is so spread out that everything does have a chance, but just because it's a sequel or has a recognizable name, it's not necessarily going to mean that it's going to do you the business that you're hoping for.
Right. Now, I think like SpongeBob should do okay, because we haven't had a SpongeBob movie in a while, and Scooby-Doo should be fine because we haven't had that, and that looks like it's like fit for modern audiences.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about those ones. Trolls looks great, Minions looks okay, but I can see, like, did we need a Peter Rabbit sequel, Sony?
Yeah.
I mean, did we need that one?
You got to strike while the James Corden iron is hot.
I guess.
Cats was amazing, and you got to just keep it going.
The Emoji Movie was amazing.
Amazing.
His coming out at the Academy Awards in a cat suit was amazing.
Yeah, that's true. That was
Rebel
pretty funny.
Wilson.
Do you think they brought those from home, or?
Maybe.
Okay.
But that was his, like...
If they didn't burn
that
it.
that was his rehearsal suit. He's like, I'll just dust this off. I like
For the joke.
Yeah, for this one joke. Another issue that we kind of see is obviously the growing competition from streaming. I don't know if this will take away from theaters. I think what we've kind of always said was that it may take away good product that theaters need, that mid-range product, but that might not be the case. I don't know. We'll have to see how this year plays out. But we saw that report that said that films stream better when they've been shown theatrically. So that maybe is a positive. Maybe we aren't going to see the competition and the product that we thought we were going to have before. Maybe streaming will just help increase theatrical because it'll put more emphasis on the experience of theatrical.
Yeah, and this year there's going to be a major boom in all things streaming services. That's possible. People are just so overwhelmed or just do not want to spend all those dollars that they'll just want to prefer to maybe spending all those dollars at the theater more often.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's easier to go to the theater and you have, maybe 5-6 options instead of 500 or 600 options between all your streaming stuff.
No, the discussion was in the 80s that home video was going to kill the movie theater industry.
Yeah.
And then DVDs and then online streaming and then Netflix streaming, and the theater business always has survived these in the past just because of that experience, being able to get out of your house, enjoy a film with an audience.
But they survived it, but not without, changes to their model. The home theater DVD cut down the theatrical release schedule. You didn't get, you got more releases in a shorter time than you did before. They didn't have the legs. You no longer saw films staying in the theater like 18-20 weeks or longer. You just didn't get that anymore. And I think that's cut that down, and online streaming now I think is just cutting that down further.
Yeah, there's always room. Eventually Tesla will make a car that changes its own oil, but until we get to that point, there's going to be somebody making money off of doing that.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us into our next one, is this behavior change that we see with movie going, that, movies aren't the only option for your media dollars anymore. We've talked a lot about video games, streaming, and then, and other stuff. So if movies aren't the only option in town, and then the younger generation is so stricken with debt and they're not used to going to movies as much and they're used to being on tablets and streaming, how is that going to affect the theaters moving forward? And that's like probably more down the line thing that probably won't come up so much in 2020, but it's still something that, how do you encourage the behavior of movie going when there's all these factors changing how younger people today consume media? Yeah.
Again, it could go back to the way theaters are run, to the way they look. That could help persuade them. But again, it is kind of something to keep in mind that with the way things are priced and how debt has become a major issue nowadays, that could also be kind of costly.
Can you afford $15 tickets even on the luxury side? Or are we going to have discussions about variable pricing and different pricing models, or just overall lowering ticket prices to encourage more movie-going habits? I mean, that is a huge complex issue of that. But I don't think we should dismiss the idea that maybe consumers today just don't have the extra media income, as well as the economy is doing now, to just spend. And so how are you going to give them value and encourage what little that they have to spend on?
Yeah, I think also opening up the last 3 rows of any theater to active cell phone use. There's nothing that upsets me more to my core than someone opening a cell phone or turning it on in front of me.
Oh,
I
I
am
hate
right
but
there
that.
with
but the
you.
last 3 rows, let them go crazy. They're not making noise. Let them tweet and live stream and Instagram all they want. As long as it's behind me, I don't care.
That's actually a very good idea.
You're welcome.
You just blew my mind. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Copyright Ken Enterprises.
All this time I was thinking about the people in front of me,
Yeah.
and I don't care about the people behind me. It's brilliant.
Well, neither
Welcome
do
to the
cell
podcast,
phone-
Ken.
Neither do cell phone users, obviously.
But shut off your phones.
Yeah, shut off your phones, especially if you're in the first half of the auditorium.
But what if the Beebs tweet something I have to see now?
I
Oh
gots
my
to
gosh,
know.
I look at those phones and they're just scrolling like Facebook or something. Like they're not even, or they're texting.
I've seen people Snapchat. I'm like, what are you snapping?
Yeah.
You're in a dark room.
There's a
The
girl
flash will go
there's a girl
off.
on Instagram doing squats right now, and I need to see it.
I need to see it. Well, you need to go see in the back 3 rows, according to Ken.
All right.
Well, that made it gross. I don't know if I want that now.
Well, moving on from that, there's also, I think, a big challenge with theaters, and because of this difference in behavior of, getting people to the theater, is also the issue of diminishing returns and the value of a film beyond its initial release. So what we're seeing with streaming is that it's shortened the value of a film on its release, I think. So, 4, 5, 6 weeks out, is anybody really interested in seeing that movie? Is 3 or 4 weeks out? Are people interested in seeing that film?
It'll be advertised for a week and then
I don't
cut
know
off there.
if the value is there anymore in a film 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks out. And I think this year we're really going to see a big challenge with these windowing issues, even though they've sort of kind of gone away with the sale of Fox to Disney. I still think that there's going to be a challenge there, because after 30 days, is there any value? I don't think consumers want to see a film or in the theater after that point.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, if your value in your film is only to the 30-day mark, what is going on with these print policies where they don't allow people to come in on the break when the film opens? Why are they shutting theaters out and expecting them to play 3 and 4 weeks later when there's nothing to it? And I think so there's got to be something to change. I think if the windowing changes, studio policies have to change on that, because there's no market for them that far down the road.
I always find it so funny that studios know how to lift embargoes at the right time for some movies. They know if a movie's bad, just release critic reviews right when it's opening, or if it's really good, let's get it a week in advance. But when it comes to windowing, they don't know how to differentiate between their products, and they just make things more complicated.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about what goes in on the other side of the industry from the creative production side to know what they have into it with the distributor.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have a certain release amount, a schedule, the distributor gets to distribute for a certain amount of time, or for a certain price per screen average or something. There's something there that is kind of dictating some of this policy. There has to be, because it really does not make sense, especially with the proliferation of digital and now streaming and satellite distribution. The cost factor isn't there to create more hard drives and allow more theaters to come in.
Right.
So if it's not cost prohibited, then there's something else keeping it out. And I've noticed that we've struggled with getting recent films, and then the films in the next couple weeks into theaters at all. They're just not going to the little guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really not fair, and that's not helping our industry at all. If you can't see it all when it first comes out in theaters, does that idea of it's in theaters exist beyond a couple more weeks? Or is that is that dying? Is that concept dying? And I kind of think it is, because even I wanted to see Frozen and Star Wars at home 30 days after it had been out.
You're over it.
As a consumer, I was already over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still money to be made, but we're seeing that window shrink and that interest shrink, where dollar houses were a thing that every town had to go see a movie a month later, and now, like you said, you're chomping at the bit to get it on your phone 30 days later.
Yeah.
I
And I don't
need it.
care that it's $1. I don't want to go to the theater sometimes that far down the road. I don't know how many consumers are either. I think we've definitely seen a transition of those sub-run houses going to first run because the interest in the film is only there for a few weeks. And it's just not there a month later.
Absolutely. It's more of this transitioning and figuring out how things work, whether we go to dollar theaters or micro theaters, which is apparently my phone now. I didn't even know it had a calculator on it, but it's a micro theater as well.
And then kind of the final wrap up to maybe some things that we need to watch in the industry that are kind of worrisome is the Justice Department inserting itself into changing the industry through not updating the Paramount decrees. And the Paramount decrees have been around for like 80 years, showing, and they prohibit studios from owning theaters. But they also prohibit a lot of other things like block booking and some clearance issues and stuff. And I think that kind of doing away with that, I don't know if that's good for theaters. I don't think that that's good for consumers. And I don't think just because studios also are streamers means that you should throw out the whole decree. I'm really leery of why this administration and this Justice Department needs to insert itself in something that's been working for 80 years. Like, there's really no reason why we need to change it, because there were legitimate reasons why these laws came into effect, other than the fact that studios owned the theaters and they needed to break up that monopoly.
Are they changing it so that way they can give the streamers more of a quote-unquote fighting chance, but wouldn't that also cause issues for streaming services to possibly like own their own theater maybe?
Well, they can do that now, though. It was only ever the production side that couldn't own theaters and exclusively book their content into them and only their content into them. So I don't know if even if you lifted them, the studios would want to get into the business, because it's expensive. I mean, it's not just being able to put your product directly to consumers in a venue you own, but it's real estate, it's buying these places, it's maintaining them. I think what has evolved by having that be another party and another company specializing in that has worked out better for the consumer, because there's no incentive for the theater to make it nice if that's the only place to see the films.
Yeah.
So I don't know where their justification is for ever overruling it just because technology has changed at this point.
Yeah, it feels like one of these times when the Penguin has a plan and Batman doesn't quite get it yet. Where something's happening, you like see the water supply getting shut off, but you're not sure exactly why.
Yeah.
There's something going on, and some group is going to benefit greatly from it. You're just not sure exactly what it is yet.
And and I really don't think that it's the theaters and the independents that'll benefit from this at all.
Or the small film companies, or...
No. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of little guys out there that I don't think this is a good thing.
They're probably not thinking about them then.
If it was a good thing for everybody, it would have been addressed already. I mean, it would have been a popular thing to bring up, but...
Yeah.
But since it hasn't been, and since there has been no groundswell movement to address these issues, you definitely wonder why all of a sudden the Justice Department needs to insert themselves into this.
So it's kind of in limbo for right now. Nothing's been done yet. It's just been an idea.
It's just
being thrown out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it looks to be that they're going to probably be overturned or not renewed, and it will make a big change. So, I don't know.
But do you think that'll happen this year or down the road, or maybe it won't happen at all?
Well, I think it could be this year, but I think a lot of it depends upon the election. and if we get a new administration with a new direction, or if we don't, So that one's definitely something to watch. If it's an outgoing thing of this administration, maybe like one last like change before they leave, or maybe if they stay in power, then will be a feature of the next few years. So it's surprisingly how kind of teetering on what happens with that.
Okay.
Politics.
You got it here first.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're a political show.
Super vague. Political commentary.
Have to teeter-totter on it just right.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, I don't know enough, and no one knows enough right now to know how.
Again, it's in limbo.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But it doesn't feel like it's going to be a good thing, so.
Well, that's not good sounding at all.
But yeah, that kind of wraps up on that somber note.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry.
Should we talk about what's being released? I think we kind of mentioned it briefly earlier.
We did. Brahms the Boy and Call of the Wild.
Gotcha. And Sonic will be the one that takes over then.
Yeah. Probably win this weekend.
If it's not number one, if Sonic's not number one, then we'll have Call of the Wild 2 to look forward to next spring.
Get ready for that sequel.
Harrison Ford's still alive.
They'll digitally animate him too.
Oh,
They're not going to slow him down.
That's true. You can do that.
Fake Harrison Ford, fake dog.
Might as well just go the extra mile then.
Yeah.
Filmed on a soundstage in Southern California.
What was filmed? It's just all in a computer.
All right. Does Ken want to see me do my bad outro, or did you have something extra to say?
Just ask Ken what you're looking forward to by joining the Off the Break podcast team.
Mostly making the office more awkward when I say something I shouldn't. Or getting in on this. I walk by the office and hear the fun giggles on Friday, so I'm excited to get inside the joke, inside the brain of the podcast that I love listening to so much.
You're like, I want to giggle. I want to have fun.
Friday giggles. We're so playful.
Playful's not the right word.
Oh, yeah, we decided that playful's not the right branding word to use.
We learned a lot about branding recently.
Yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Politics.
That's the word. That's the brand.
Yeah.
That'll automatically eliminate 50% of you from listening to this podcast. just the word politics.
They're like, nope. Nope.
All right. Now, I am also very excited to hear Kyle's giant, super amazing, big outro.
Yeah.
This is the first time live in person, so I'm very excited.
I have all this pressure on me.
Should we?
And I already butcher so much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to Off the Break podcast.
Our 100th episode.
Our 100th episode, and welcome Ken, of course.
Thank you. 100.
Yeah. Coming in at the pinnacle.
Coming in hot.
Yeah.
We'll be having plenty more episodes on all podcast platforms, as well as at Silver Screen Insider. And be sure to check out that service that we have where theater owners can be able to unlock all the marketing possibilities for their upcoming releases.
Yep. Check it out.
Thank you for listening to my first and last episode.
Yeah. Stop it. We'll drag you in.